Hey guys, this is James from TeaDB, bringing you InBetweenIsode number 57. So today, as you saw, we are doing another YangQing Hao production. So this is one I picked up. I only picked up one mushroom so far, trying to decide if I want another one. So this is a 2007 Jincha, and Jincha is just like mushroom tea. So that's a shape. It comes in 300 gram mushrooms. It sells for $130 per 300 grams. I am on steep 3 and 4 right here. I already have steep 3 right here. Steep 4 in the Chahai. They were just freshly made, so it's still pretty hot. And I'm going to have a sniff on these leaves. The tea itself is very tightly compressed, and that's helped to sort of like keep its aroma to be really nice. So from the aroma, lots of dark fruits, a little bit leathery, some sort of like light floral things going on in there. This tea, kind of like the Qizhong that I reviewed a couple episodes back, also from the same year and same producer, sort of has a different profile than I found from some of the earlier Six Famous Mountains or Yiwuish productions, veering more towards like a darker, heavier profile, just generally speaking. Anyways, here's steep number 3. Cheers, guys. So it's got really nice thickness. The thickness has continued to build on each consecutive steep. There's some bitterness to it. There's also a little bit of bitterness to the first couple steeps. It slowly died down, and the tea is smoothed out. I think it still has a little bit more room to sort of smooth out to that profile. But the bitterness is well balanced with sort of like those sweeter notes, sweet dark fruits, and the thickness, like I've been saying, is really, really nice. Alright, steep number 4. And for steep number 5, I'm going to push this for just a little bit longer. So this is actually the original tea I was exposed to from YangQing Hao. I got a sample of it way back from Origin. I got a big 50-gram sample of it, and it sat in that bag for a while, and I just slowly sort of drank it. I think I drank this tea a couple times for my Yiwuish report, so once in 2015, once in 2014, when I was first getting started sort of drinking Pu'erh. And it's always struck me as a really, really nice tea, and so it's interesting to come back and have something that's not from the sample bag, that didn't sit in that bag for a year and a half, now that I'm finally done with the sample. But I've always enjoyed this tea. I've always enjoyed each of the sessions that I had from it, so to revisit it is kind of a treat. Cheers, guys. It's a little bit more stone fruity in this one. I think it could have been pushed a little bit more on steep number 4. The color is a little bit more orangey rather than orangey red. The thickness is still there. It's got sort of a nice softness to the profile that's really smooth out. The bitterness is hardly in this steep at all. Maybe a little bit astringent, but not bad. Alright, so steep number 5 looks a little bit darker than the previous steep, similar to steep number 3. Yeah, it's got a little bit more bite to it. When you push it a little bit more, the texture has become a little bit more interesting. I'm noticing a little bit more leatheriness that's coming into this steep. I'll have a quick smell. Yeah, so more similar profile, but I'd say it shifted from being predominantly fruity to a little bit more leathery, a little bit like more floral leathery, but it still definitely has those sorts of dark fruits in there. I did notice that the leaves were relatively small in this Jincha, fairly tippy. Very tasty. And so for people that especially like the Qizhong, I think this is sort of an interesting counterpoint to it. I haven't had that tea in the last week or so, so I'm a bit fuzzy on like how exactly these are different, but they do sort of fit into that darker profile compared to the fruitier, the YangQing Hao, the tea that has many names, the Gushu Chawang / Qizhong tea that I reviewed last episode. That one would fit more in sort of that fruitier profile, as well as the Senglio as well. And the Yiwuish Chawang is a little bit different. That one's really sweet, like heavily sweet. So so those are sorts of some of the couple different profiles. There's a lot more flavor, especially once you get past the first couple steeps to here for this tea. So for people that are like, oh, I want more just straightforward flavor, I want more bite, I just want more in the tea, then this would be a pretty reasonable pick. It's also kind of nice because you can buy in smaller quantity. I know one of the big complaints, or one of the things that holds people back from participating in these group orders, is that the cakes are so big. But if you calculate the price per gram, you actually do very well with these teas. So similar to these other teas, it's also one that I'd recommend. I'd sort of put it, it's a little bit cheaper than the Qizhong, but not much. And I think it's a little bit more expensive than the Senglio and Yiwuish Chawang. But I think it's definitely worth checking out for those of you that are sort of shopping in this price range. I like this tea a lot. It's probably better in some things, like the thickness might be a little bit better than the Qizhong. It's got really nice aromatics, which I'm not totally taking advantage of in the clay, so I'd recommend using a Gaiwan as well during a different session. But yeah, it's definitely like a tea I'd recommend. Anyway, I'm going to drink this cup. So, dark fruits. It sort of has that, like hints of like a smoky past, similar to the Qizhong, which is interesting because I didn't pick up on that in the sample. So that's different from my memory. I'm starting to sweat. I'm also a person that doesn't sweat very easily, so that speaks towards the sort of like internal strength of the tea. So more of the same. The astringency is still here. It's continuing to fight. It's fighting a little bit longer than the Qizhong would, I think, for example. Sort of that textured stone fruit sweetness with a little bit of bite put into it. And then you can sort of feel a lot of activity sort of like in the throat and the back of the mouth. On the first couple infusions, I could feel sort of that sort of like rising sweetness in the throat. But yeah, definitely a tea I would recommend checking out or asking Emmett for a sample of. This is also one of the teas that I do know is rising in price for 2016. So not to play into the scarcity or you need to buy now mentality, but it's a good tea. And a tea that is worth it for people that are willing to shop in this upper price range. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers.